On this episode of Whether or Not, we take a look back at the tragic and very devastating wildfires that impacted California over the past 2 weeks. Patrick will have more on that in just a couple of moments. Also, I have a look at the final fall foliage report of the season, find out who's seeing the best color this week. Later in the show, Bree will have a look at how climate change is perhaps impacting the seasons here in Pennsylvania. Did it seem like winter came a little bit too soon? We'll find out if that has an impact coming up later in the show. Also, we had a bit of an early season winter storm this week, and Patrick will have a look at the extended forecast to see if any more of those systems could be coming our way. Whether or Not starts right now. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Whether or Not. I'm your host, Matt Hoenig.
And I'm your forecaster, Patrick Wright.
Patrick, as we're airing right now on CNET, an early season winter storm underway here in the center region of Pennsylvania. What can we expect heading into this weekend?
Well, in terms of some Thanksgiving travel, you may have some impacts. I'll break that down coming up. But also, we do have a dry period coming up. So at least we have that coming as we head into Thanksgiving break for us here at University Park.
Great, so we'll have more with the forecast with Patrick coming up in just a few moments, but first, it's Nature in the News. Well, it's mid-November, and that means it is time for the final foliage report of the season on Whether or Not. Most metropolitan areas in Pennsylvania are seeing their peak colors right about now. The colors are starting to fade here in State College, and leaf drop has already begun across much of north-central portions of the Commonwealth. Elsewhere across the Northeast, New York City, Hartford, and Boston are all at or just past peak color. Typically, we'll see leaves return to the trees sometime in late April or early May here in the Northeast.
The campfire, a wildfire burning in the northern region of California and the city of Paradise, became the most deadly wildfire in the state's history. 42 people have been confirmed dead as of Tuesday, with some still missing. The fire has charred at least 125,000 acres of forest and town, sending a plume of smoke over the valleys and mountains of Northern California, to a point where it was visible from space. The wildfire is also one of the most destructive fires in the state's history, with more than 7,500 structures burned, most of which are people's homes. One spot in particular that burned was the Ridgewood Mobile Home Park on the eastern side of the city of Paradise. This site was one of the first to burn in Paradise, giving way to 13 bodies being found recently, with more feared dead. The community consisted of mainly seniors who may not have had enough time to escape due to their advanced age and mobility restrictions. Central Pennsylvania will be getting rid of the snowstorm that's been impacting us for the last couple of days here in central Pennsylvania. So let's take a look at what those conditions are up to. We do expect by Friday the low pressure system bringing us all this wintry precip and nasty weather for most of us this quite early in the season for this kind of weather. But we do expect that low pressure to be sitting off the eastern seaboard by Friday afternoon, or at least Friday morning, I should say, bringing us a lot of wintry precip early in the morning, and then mainly rain towards the southeastern portion of the state. However, snow further towards the north in New York, and a wintry mix in central Pennsylvania, so it's going to be a nasty day to get outside and do anything. But this does move out pretty quickly throughout the day on Friday, and so therefore by Saturday we have a generally calm day here in central Pennsylvania. A high pressure begins to build in, leaving us a partly cloudy to partly sunny sky here throughout most of the state, and frankly most of the Northeast. So any Thanksgiving travel plans, or at least for Thanksgiving break for Penn State students, this will be one of the best days to travel. Now in terms of Sunday, what can we expect? We do expect a little bit of a clip just to move through. Not much coming in, where it will bring some clouds to portions of Pennsylvania, but maybe some showers and some flakes, possibly, depending on the temperatures in certain spots. for at least portions of the northwestern or area of the state. Now, what can we expect in terms of the numbers here in central Pennsylvania, or at least in State College? We expect a high of 42 degrees on Friday with a wintry mix for most of the area, or at least in the morning. That does decrease as we head throughout the day, as the low pressure does move on out fairly quickly as we move on throughout the rest of the day on Friday. Now, in terms of Friday night, we do dry out nicely, decreasing clouds throughout the evening, 33 degrees for a low. Now, by Saturday, we do continue that dry pattern, 43 degrees, with a generally partly cloudy sky for most of the region. However, the clouds do increase by Sunday with a high of 38 degrees and a generally mostly cloudy sky. And like I said, the few showers further towards the northwestern portion of the state. Now, I know a lot of us are getting ready to travel for Thanksgiving, or at least for Thanksgiving break for Penn State students. There will be poor driving conditions, or at least travel conditions, early Friday morning. So if you can wait till Friday afternoon, because the precip will be exiting Friday afternoon, and then by Friday early evening and into the late evening will be the best times to travel. Same thing on Saturday. So if you can wait till Saturday, that would be best in terms of your travel conditions. Coming up next, Bree has a package on whether or not the seasons here in central Pennsylvania are being affected by the climate.
Some of the world's most magnificent beauty comes from the changing seasons. Some places have less and some places have more, and most people have a preference for which they prefer. But what exactly causes the seasons to change throughout the year? Interestingly, in contrast to popular belief, winter in the northern hemisphere occurs when the Earth is closest to the sun, which is called perihelion, and summer when it is furthest away, which is called aphelion. However, the reason that we have changing seasons is mainly due to the fact that the Earth's axis is on a tilt as it rotates, which is the reason we have night and day and why we have different seasons. As the Earth orbits the sun, the direction in which the Earth's axis tilts is always the same. Thus, throughout the year, different sections of the planet get direct sunlight. This will cause the North Pole to tilt towards the sun in the summer and the South Pole to tilt towards the sun in the winter. So now that we know exactly how the seasons occur, what would happen to the seasons if, let's say, our own state, Pennsylvania, experienced severe climate change? Climate is a long-term atmospheric trend, and the weather is what happens over a short time period. I was able to talk with Dr. Soo-Kwon Lee, who specializes in climate studies, to find out more.
There are changes in the monsoon convective system. Maybe my guess is that it has strengthened, and that actually strengthened the low pressure, the large scale low pressure system over eastern U.S. And I think that is responsible for this wet cloud weather here. So that is not to say that you're going to have this all the time, of course. So that's sort of basic state, and there will be occasional perturbation. We get clear skies and whatnot, but that is sort of basic state.
So would anything major happen to Pennsylvania in the foreseeable years, and are there other areas that are more susceptible to this?
Pennsylvania is actually sort of a node between low pressure and high pressure. If you look at the, say, response to El Nino, for example, and if the climate is becoming more like a La Nina, for example, so in part of the country where they are under, high and low, they are going to experience large change. But countries, the location where there's a node, then the change will be relatively less. For example, California, that's under high pressure, and according to my theory, I think it will intensify. And in the region under, usually low pressure system like us here, that will also intensify.
With all of this being said, I wondered how people would feel if the seasons in our area suddenly changed. I found out some interesting and unique perspectives when I asked people what their favorite seasons were and what was their take on climate change affecting the seasons.
Okay, well, I love the fall. I love the weather. It's kind of cool and it's not too cold and it's not too warm like the summer. Yeah, it's definitely bringing me down. I'm not a fan of the wet season. That's why I don't like the spring. And it's definitely a little bit too cold. I was expecting it to be colder like in December.
By far, winter's my favorite season. I love it because of the snow, all of the fun weather that we get forecasting it. I also love photography, so taking pictures of the snow is one of my favorite hobbies. And I think the biggest thing with climate change is that we're probably going to be getting more extreme weather. So whether that be wetter or colder, I think a lot of nor'easters, we might be getting more of those. So in that sense, that would be good for winter weather. We might have more opportunities to get potent systems, especially with it being wetter. But if temperatures might be more marginal, then we might have to deal with more rain or mixing issues. So that's kind of a give and take. But even with climate change, it seems like we have still exciting weather to experience.
My favorite season is fall. I know a lot of people say that, but it's just because the foliage is so pretty and it sounds basic, but you can wear whatever you want. Like, I could wear long sleeves or short sleeves or jeans or shorts. It really doesn't matter because it's like that nice temperature. Like, it's not too hot, it's not too cold. So that's why I like it. I wouldn't like if it were wetter in the fall because I don't like rain and it just puts a damper on my outfits that I described earlier.
So maybe your favorite season is summer, or maybe the brisk fall, or maybe you need all of the seasons equally like myself and would dread a severely changing climate here in Pennsylvania. No matter what though, not just for versatility, but for a safe planet, it is important to maintain a healthy balance and all the seasons are needed. For whether or not, I'm Bree Guy.
Welcome back to the extended forecast here on Whether or Not. We're going to jump right into the weekend recap. Now, what can we expect for temperature-wise? Friday, the snow, wintry mix and wintry precip will move out throughout most of the region, so we finally get rid of that yucky mess that we have. Lightening up for some of our travel for Thanksgiving break for students here at Penn State, but 43 on Saturday, cooling off to 38 by Sunday, and a low of 26. Now that is going to set the stage for the rest of the week. And take a look at this. With temperature-wise, we will be in the mid to low 30s in terms of high temperatures throughout portions of the beginning of the week next week. However, we do remain dry. See the mainly partly cloudy skies for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Just a few more clouds here on Wednesday as we head into the Thanksgiving holiday on Thursday. But overall, a calm holiday week expected for most of us, so much relief compared to what we've had last week.
So Patrick, with this early season winter storm winding down over the next several hours and people traveling home this weekend for Thanksgiving break, what can we expect as we head into Friday and early Saturday?
The best days for travel will be Friday afternoon, Friday evening, and Saturday because we do dry out nicely and getting into a nice calm weekend for most of us here. Cool, but calm.
Sounds good, Patrick. Hopefully you all will drive home safely for Thanksgiving. But turning the page for just a moment and taking a look at our Weather Whiz quiz question that we asked you earlier in the show. As of Monday afternoon, both the Camp and Woolsey fires in California have caused how many dollars in estimated damages? Was it A, $3 billion, B, $8 billion, C, $14 billion, or D, $19 billion? And if you answered D, $19 billion, you are tonight's lucky winner. As Patrick pointed out earlier in the show, in Nature in the News, these wildfires are causing widespread destruction in California. Damage costs will continue to increase, and Chuck Watson, a disaster modeler at Enki Research, said damages will likely eclipse $25 billion.
Fire insurance is also becoming a major issue in California, and these destructive fires will certainly not help that industry. Insurers in California lost nearly $16 billion last year, and they will most likely lose even more this year.
Certainly a terrible situation out in California. Patrick, I'm sure you and I have both been keeping track of it. And of course, our thoughts and prayers are going out to all of those and of course the family members of those who have been affected by those wildfires. That's going to do it for this week's show of Whether or Not. I'm your host, Matt Hoenig.
And I'm your forecaster, Patrick Wright.
Have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll see you again next week.